my current assignment, but I am a PR and communication specialist. That is my real job, yeah. And I run a company called Cause Impact, okay. And I've had a lot of experience in different ways, and I'm happy to be the one that is doing this. Apart from the fact that I was the chairman of Wazito Football Club. We brought up Wazito up to KPL, yeah. Until we finally had it taken over by Ricardo. So I have been closely involved in football and the management of football, and I'm passionate about it. It's something that is very close to my heart.
Okay. And for you, Mutwiri, like I said, I've known you for very many years. Since I was in school, you know, I was reading about yourself. No, we work together. You know, it's a pleasure to have you on my show. I've been on your show severally, so it's a pleasure to host you on my show. But for the benefit of the people that don't know you, could you kindly introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Mutwiri Mutuota. I've been a journalist for about 18 years now. I've gone through print, radio, and now I'm on TV with CGTN Africa, where I'm serving as a line producer. I'm also a fan, a sports fan, a huge one, football, rugby, athletics, and all that. Yes, and it's a pleasure being on this show. I watch it every week. Very informative, very entertaining, and also in depth. Look at sports, and I'm happy, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, fantastic. Now we delve into the topic of FKF election. That's why we are here, and we begin with the Kentice. What is happening currently? You know, I've just seen an email right now that you guys have sent. Is it a calendar or what that is sent today? You know, just plans for the upcoming elections. But you've done this, twice, and the elections have been cancelled. What factors have you put in place to ensure that there's no repeat of what has happened twice now?
First of all, I want to say that on 11th of August, we unveiled the electoral calendar. And this was following directives from FIFA. They wrote a letter on 5th of August asking that elections be carried out. And they were very clear that the elections should be carried out based on the FKF Constitution, the FKF Electoral Code, and where necessary, the FIFA statutes. Mm-hmm. And so on 11th of August, we unveiled a calendar, which is the roadmap that takes us towards this election. And so we actually are following that calendar. And yesterday, we published the register, the club's register. And so that is what is going on. Tomorrow, we intend to finalize with the delegates. And so because the clubs were finalized yesterday, now we can receive all the information that is required with regard to the delegates. And okay. So that is what we are doing at the moment. So I just want to say that we did have a number of disputes being raised once we published the preliminary register. And so we have been handling these disputes, and it was after those disputes that we published the final register.
Okay, apologies for that. Even before I let Mutwiri, speak on that, I have been having this question in my mind for very long since we started this campaign for the FKF election started, and it's directed to you, Kentice. The FKF Electoral Board operates from the Goal Project, that is Kandanda House. Even the website itself for the Electoral Board is a subdomain to the main FKF elections. Pretty much you're operating under FKF. Now my question is, in your own opinion, is the FKF Electoral Board impartial? How independent is the FKF Electoral Board as the chairman of the Electoral Board? How independent do you think the board is?
Now, one of the things that we must get clear right from the beginning is the fact that we were constituted in accordance with the FKF Constitution. The FKF Constitution is the one that mandates the appointment of the board. But most important, even the lifetime of the board and everything that the board does is stipulated by the FKF Constitution. Further, that constitution has rules and regulations which the board is expected then to execute. We facilitate elections based on this code, based on that constitution. And whether we are based at Gold Project, Kandanda House, or in my office, or wherever it is, the integrity of the process is really, really dependent on the integrity of the people that actually execute that election. And so I need us to get the notion that being, operating from the FKF offices makes us partial. I would like to remove that notion completely.
Okay.
Now, the important thing to note is this: the election is hinged upon the register. And that's why the club register is the first thing that we actually we have to clean it up. That register is based on the data that is continuously collected by FKF. Okay. That means we are using a database that has been developed by FKF. And so it doesn't matter whether we are looking at that register from whichever office. The fact is that that register has been created based on data that is collected by FKF, data that is given to FKF from the ground. Now, this is very important. The purpose of publishing that register and allowing for time for people to look at it and bring disputes is supposed to give us that credibility that is required. And so members must look at that register because those are the voters.
Yeah, sure.
Those are the voters. So we publish and then ask members to look at it and then come to us with whatever complaints that they may have. Now, initially, some people were saying, why should we be giving complaints to the same FKF? And they have just found that it's a totally different ballgame because we ask them to give us evidence. We don't come with evidence from FKF in order to look at the disputes.
Sure.
We ask for evidence from them. And that evidence includes the fixtures on the ground, the league standings on the ground, player cards. We actually, and we want official documents stamped. And members must get this right, because if the same officials that send results to FKF are the ones you're expecting us to give us something different, then it becomes a problem. It's up to the clubs, because when the fixtures are set, these fixtures are sent to the clubs. So let the clubs give us those fixtures and league standings, and then we compare. We compare what they have given us with the records that FKF have. If there is a discrepancy, we definitely then do the necessary. And the number of clubs that came across, they have seen the process. If necessary, we call the two parties so that they can talk and we then arbitrate. So we facilitate the cleaning up of a register that was created by FKF. And we give members a chance to scrutinize that register and give us evidence of cheating or whatever it is. And it's up to members to help us to get that process right. That is the beginning of us trying to be transparent and to be credible. And that process so far has worked pretty well.
Okay, good insights there, Kentice. Mutwiri, we've seen these elections cancelled twice, and you've covered football from way back when we had very many, scandals in football. Really, what does this mean for football in Kenya when, we have elections cancelled twice? We're not sure when the leagues are resuming. There's always a push and pull between KPL and FKF. What does this mean, and what does it mean to have credible elections going forward?
Well, thank you. The fact that we've had this exercise twice cancelled through legal means, first of all, is a serious integrity questions. And as long as there's this integrity questions linger, we will always have a process that is fraught with suspicion. And even if Kentice and her team do elections on the day October 17, I think that is when they have set for the national elections,
Yeah.
we'll always have litigation. For example, today they have released we can go back. Yeah, we can go back to so many scandals that have been involved with Kenyan football, but just restrict ourselves to the present.
Yeah.
First of all, today they have released a register, which has got the people or the presumptive people who shall vote in the next FKF office.
Yeah.
First of all, that register, even from the look of it, there's a problem. You have, like, for example, 3 women Premier League teams, yet we have stated 15. That we call into the national list. When you go to the same list, we have a team like Sony, which was kicked out of the KPL. We also have the teams that were supposedly relegated during that time when the league was cancelled because of COVID-19. We still have them listed as KPL teams. Yeah. Those are the kind of things that they might look small, they might look tiny, but those are the kind of things that bring a lot of questions to the process. Why are we having teams like Palos who are expelled? They are not there, but then we have Sony, a team that was kicked out, but it is still there in the register. And these are the people we expect that they will vote in the county officials and so on. When you go to the county list itself, we have a county like Moranga, yeah, honestly, which has 3 teams.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. Even if you don't know so much about football, yeah, that is, and you have a county like a county I saw in Meru, yeah, has that has 6 teams.
Actually, I saw Nairobi East has almost 50 teams. Actually, over 50 teams, yeah.
Yeah, Nairobi East, that's fine. You can have over 50 teams in Nairobi because we know football. Nairobi is a hotbed of football. Yeah. But when you go to Meru, which is not quite a hotbed of football, and you have somewhere we have that 6 odd teams. Yeah. And I've been there even when in my previous employers, you want to go there and you scramble even to look for 5 teams and you not find them. So that's why that register alone, yeah, these are questions. We are not saying it has not been drawn. And like Kentice said, and this is where we have our suspicions. She said that the data is coming from FKF.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought any electoral body, even the national electoral body, they do their own mapping. They do their own. Mapping of the delegates, and if it is the zones and everything, and they come up with that data. So I cannot bring Kentice and her team. First of all, I must say this. If we have to have an electoral board that is totally independent, then it has to have its own personnel, it must have its own budget, it must have its own everything, so that it can run a credible process. For example, have they cross-checked whether a team that is listed in from Chuka exists? Have they seen whether this team plays? And what is the guy who is been listed as a delegate, for example? Does he have a criminal record? Can he stand the scrutiny of, for example, if he was supposed to do a voting process? Remember, we are talking about running an organization where millions of lives are at stake, where there's a huge amount of money also at stake. There's the pride of the nation at stake, and football is the most popular sport in this country. So we cannot just have a process that is let me just say it, for lack of a better word, a kienyeji process. Mm-hmm. Yes, Kentice and her team are doing very well, but I feel that their hands are tied. As long as they don't have their own independent staff, they don't have their own independent budget, and they're running within the coattails of Kandanda House, it's as if the incumbent is trying to referee themselves as far as this electoral process is concerned. Well, we cannot just lay all the blame at the FKF doorstep. I'm also, as a journalist, I'm also very worried about the kind of names that are fronting themselves to run for office in this organization. Some of them don't have such a great track record. So where are the real football men and women who can come in and rescue this sport? Because we cannot pass the buck from a guy you're saying that, or a regime that you're saying is bad, and pass it to another one, which is equally as bad. And I think also it's time we looked at the whole process from the start.
Okay. Kentice, what's your take on that, the allegations that have been raised by Mutuota?
One, I need you to be clear about the number of teams.
Okay.
If you go to the code, the electoral code, the ladies representative should be 5, not 15. It's not all. So at national level, so they vote at the various levels, and that we follow the code to the letter. So,
but in this case, you have 3. Sorry? But in this case, the list you published today has 3. So
the total of 5. The total are 5. Just check the various ones. They're 5. And a team like you talked about Sony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are supposed to have 18 teams from KPL. 18 teams. At the time that the league stopped, Sony was actually hanging. It had not yet gone down to NSL, and that, it was hanging in the middle, and so we had to take a decision on it, and we felt that because KPL should be having 18 teams, and the team that was to be promoted had not yet been promoted, we allowed for Sony to go in as a KPL team, and that was about the timing. Now the 2020 league, the 2020 league is a very dicey one, because remember the code says that the league you use should have done at least 50%. And so we are having cases where some have done 50%, like the ladies. The ladies had done, Nakuru Queens had only played 1 match out of 16. It becomes very difficult to take a call on such a situation. And so we decided to do away with that league because it had not done 50%. And so I want you to get the confidence that when it comes to the number of teams, really, we did look at those, and scrutinize them the way that they should have been scrutinized. Now, the reason that we published that register was so that the issues Mutwiri is raising should have been raised. He didn't raise them. Why didn't he raise them? Because honestly, it doesn't make sense. If you're going to make this process clean, it doesn't make sense for you to complain on the side. I wish you'd have brought this complaint to say Meru should be having 36 teams. Given the time frame that we are given and the budget that is available, it's impossible for the electoral team to start going into every county to count which teams are going on and so on and so forth. It would be a process that needs to be ongoing. And it's one of the recommendations that we are going to give at the end of our term. And so that's why we took the route of publishing it. Bring us your complaints so that based on those complaints, we then clean up the register. And for those who brought in their complaints, we have actually looked at them. And so my Kinyanjui, my plea is this.
Yeah.
Let's stop just complaining. I like to solve problems. Let's be people who give solutions. Because when you assume that, the board is working under the tails of FKF and therefore nothing good will come out of it, you're not helping the process. If the board has said, give us your thoughts about this thing, bring those complaints. And if they are not dealt with, then you say, we can see that there's a problem here. And by the way, beyond us, there's an appeals board. So if somebody felt aggrieved by the decision that we have made, they ought to be able to go to the appeals board. So I feel that, and then the other thing is, don't forget, we are dealing with a membership organization. FKF is a membership of organization. These members are the ones who came up with these rules. And that's why we are saying we are going to run this election. At the end of it, we are going to come up with our recommendations. and give them so that they use their processes to actually get the thing sorted. And like I've said previously, my biggest concern is that people who claim to be seriously passionate about this game showing up at the election time to point out what's going wrong, rather than being part of the process those 4 or 5 years and trying to put things right so that by the time the elections are coming, people are aware these are the people that we should be putting into the office who know how management should be. It's too late to come, making issues around election time. And that's why we are going round and round in circles, because it's really the wrong time to resolve issues. The issues should have been, like now, SDT has ruled. Whatever it has ruled, it's not the electoral board that can put it into action. It is a NEC that needs to put it into action so that the electoral rules and so on are changed. What do? So you have to elect, and then your NEC puts them into operation. So I feel that we are not being strategic in our approach to management of soccer, because if we were strategic, we would be looking at the entire process right through, rather than just waiting at the election time for us to raise issues.
Well, Kentice, to be fair enough, I think as journalists we are trying our part, and that's why we have you in the show to explain these issues to those that don't have that opportunity to talk to you directly. But speaking of SDT again, I repeat the same question I asked when we started this show. These elections have been cancelled twice. We still have court cases going on at the SDT and so on. What measures have you put in place? You're already making plans for the elections to take place in October. What surety do Kenyans have, Kenyan football fans, that the same exercise that has been cancelled twice will not be cancelled again? Because I think the same issues that were raised by other stakeholders and contestants, most of them have not been solved already. For instance, the eligibility criteria in the electoral code, there's still a lot of issues around the same. So what surety are you giving football stakeholders in Kenya that this exercise that you are carrying on, that you are planning on, even on a weekend that you should ideally be resting, that you're still working on it? What surety do we have that, in the next few weeks or another month, the elections will not be cancelled again? What surety can you give the football Kenyan?
I wish I could give a surety. My confidence hinges on FIFA, because FIFA has given direction, and FIFA's direction was use the FKF electoral code, use the constitution, and FIFA statutes where applicable. So, for example, the eligibility criteria, we chose to use the FIFA statutes because they are a lower threshold than the FKF code. So rather than say contestants should have been in football, actively involved in football for 3 out of the last 5 years, we settled for 2 out of the last 5 years. Sorry, it was 3 out of the last 4. And so we settled for 2 out of the last 5. So that stretches it and gives a lot more people. And like I'm saying, so we had between FKF and FIFA statutes to use. So we took the lower threshold. Now, when it comes to endorsement, because that was the other contentious matter, when it comes to endorsement, again, whereas the FKF code talks about 5 clubs or 3 clubs, we came up with, we used the the FIFA statutes that say 5 members. So we opened up the space so that endorsements can be done by members who include referees associations, coaches associations, players associations, you get, which makes sense because, for example, that county that has 3 clubs only, for example, Kwale has got 7. How do you get enough aspirants from such a pool? Our hands had been tied for as long as we were using the electoral code. But now with the FIFA statutes, we opened it up. Now, the other issue is this. The electoral code talks about 60 days. You have to do elections within 60 days. Now, because of these issues of people have to change endorsements so we've spread the time a little bit. So we've taken a little bit more than 60 days so that we make sure that the election, we have the disputes being solved and so on and so forth. So my view is that the board has done all it can within the space that we have been provided to ensure that the election actually goes on. And so we should be confident that the election will actually be finished off.
Okay, a question from one of the viewers here. She's asking that in the last register, some teams that were in the last register and are still active in FKF leagues are not in the register that you released, the final list that you released today. What could have informed the changes?
I'll say that again. I'll repeat it, that we published a preliminary register. Now, once we published it, we got disputes. Now, if the dispute went through, then obviously the clubs changed. So if you see changes, those changes are as a result of disputes that had been raised.
Okay, and the final question from also another viewer, he says that, according to the FKF constitution, that is section 35, clause number 2, it reads that each club that is duly registered by FKF is eligible to vote. Clause 3 says that each club will have 1 vote. So ideally, all clubs registered and active under FKF leagues should be eligible to vote, right?
Yeah.
But again, the eligibility criteria that was released, it's not all clubs that are participating in leagues that are.
Yes.
For instance, like you said, in the WPL, it's only 5 teams.
Yeah.
So why does this why is it different from what the FKF constitution says and what we are experiencing right now in the elections?
Yeah, the FKF constitution is very clear. You vote at your level. So we've got teams that vote at national level. We've got those that vote at county level, and then the sub-branch. And remember, FIFA statute, FIFA direction was very clear. We follow the FKF constitution, and they even said it clearly, you start at branch level. That is a matter that, again, needs to be settled at NEC. So we start at branch level. So at branch level, only branch and county clubs are going to vote. And then we move that to the NEC and presidential. And then thereafter, we are going to do the sub-branch.
Okay. Mutwiri, what is your take on, these football elections? You've covered them over years. Have they always been, this scandalous?
Not even scandalous, they have been a sham. All of them.
Okay.
Some of them, even saw some election where the sports minister was at the floor to make sure that a certain person has been elected and another one has been, before he left for Sagana for a meeting with the rest of the cabinet. I don't know whether that was a demand of the state or what. But anyway, having listened to what Kentice is saying, first things first, let us not delude ourselves that these elections must happen. You see, I hear what she's saying, but the truth is, it's not a matter of life and death. It is not too late to raise issues and what people are raising, because these are the same people, for example, who we are speaking on behalf of as journalists, who you expect to spend their money to come and watch your football. These are the same people you expect to feed your stadiums. So if you don't get this process right, then there is no need of having a flawed process simply because we have 60 days to do an election. There are many ways we can get our act together. First things first, we can have even a caretaker committee. For the term of the current, the last NEC elapsed in March. Football has not stopped. So we can take all the time we have, first of all, even if it means going back and redoing the FKF constitution. And so that we can have an all-inclusive and a process that can stand the test of time done, instead of just doing something because we have to. We don't have to. Look, the approach of this thing should be root and branch. We cannot just be having a process. And like she says, and she admits it to the fact that, look, I've even checked the number of names they are published for women. There are 4, not 5.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the small things. Some clubs who are in, they are now out. So instead of, even I will not, even as the chairman of the electoral board, I will not want to preside over a process that is going to raise more questions and answers. And when we say what we are trying to say, it's not that we have come in too late in the day. No, we have been saying these things over and over again, and we make the same mistakes over and over again. That is why we've never had a football office that has actually acted in the interest of the game. As the chair lady or the chairperson of the electoral board, as a journalist, and also other stakeholders, we have chance to, first of all, end the cycle. This cycle of we just do something, we get a flawed process, a process that's scrutiny, a process that is open to questioning simply because we have to do an exercise. We don't have to. Sometimes even if it means getting out of the football family for some time and then coming back and putting our act together, because at the end of the day, look, there is no need of doing a process that is taken to court, then we go back to court again. You see, our football is played more in boardrooms, it's played more in the court corridors, it's played more in hotels, it's played more in chat rooms than actually the pitch.
Yeah.
And while we are doing all these things, while we are trying to make a process that cannot stand the scrutiny of time, or they cannot stand the integrity test, what we are risking is the lives of hundreds and thousands of young people who could have actually been making a meaningful living out of this football. For example, so many countries around us have gotten back to their post-COVID-19 football. We are nowhere near knowing when we are going to go back on the pitch. There are so many teams that we need to prepare a national team for the AFCON qualifiers. We need to prepare so many things. But right now, we are all engaged in a process which, to be quite honest, cannot stand the integrity test. There are so many illegalities, there are so many irregularities, and so many questions about this process that the best thing to do would be to stop it and we get our act together before we now come back to the field. For example, I've talked to some club owners I know, even from Morang and all that. There are some teams that are voting nationally, so they are not part of the county teams. Yeah. There are others that are voting the county teams, but why are we having so many questions? What does it take to say, hey guys, let us stop this thing, let us put our act together and now get a proper process in place? Because there is a misconception in this country that when I raise a question, I am a critic, or when I raise a question, I am anti-football, or when I raise a question, I don't know what is good for the game. Look, everything must be tested, everything must be tried before it is actually put out there on the ground for it to work. So, Madam Kentice and the team, it is okay, you've done so well so far, but it is not too late to ask questions. We are not trying to disrupt the process. We just want a process that even if I lose today, or I win if I was a candidate or someone else, even if I'm a loser or a winner, depending on which side, because everyone is always labeled to be in a certain camp. Let us know that, yes, I lost fairly on the ground. Let me not have something that I can hold on to and accuse your team or those others who will be involved in this process of not doing the right thing. We also saw in 2013 this country, 2017, we had a repeat election. Something must be done. It doesn't mean because we have a timetable or anything, we have to do elections by August 8, we must do them. It's not a must we do them.
Okay.
So what I would ask is sobriety. No matter which comes or what we are or who we are serving, we all serve the one thing that is called football. For once, let people think about football. Let us all voices be heard. Let us have a process that is legal, that is also credible, that can also stand the test of time. Because if we don't do this, 4 years from now, we'll be back here where we are today, talking about a process that is flawed or not flawed, and still where we are doing nothing in our football. So that is what I would say.
Okay.
It's not about criticizing or saying things, but we just need to do it right.
Madam Kentice, I want to give you a right of reply. Mutwiri says we should not just do an election for the sake of doing one, because FIFA has given us 60 days to make sure that we have an election done. But Mutwiri says, just doing an election for the sake of it is not right, and it will also raise integrity issues around the electoral board and even for yourself. What do you have to say about that?
I totally agree with him, completely. I agree with Mutwiri, except that the electoral process should not begin during the election. I have said that before. People must be involved in this right through. You can't wait for the election is when you start raising issues around the election. When the membership has a very clear process through which all these mechanisms are actually passed. Now, when the first election was stopped, I believe certain mechanisms were put in place to put right whatever it was that had been stopped. My belief is that is the time when different stakeholders should have put in everything that they needed to put in. You can't keep on going back and changing and changing. For whose benefit are these changes being made? For whose benefit? We must carry out a process that is one for posterity, a process that goes beyond the current office, a process that goes beyond the current electoral board. And the way to do that is not to wait until elections, have come is when you do it. No, my personal view is that we need these people involved in football passionately to know what's going on, so that during the AGMs, every year, there are AGMs that are coming up with rules and regulations and so on. Put them in place. Don't wait until the next election. 4 years later is when you show up to start making changes. I believe that, and that's why I said we are not being strategic. We are looking at the election. We are not looking at the management of football right through the process. Our job, the way I see it, is to wait for elections is when we start, raising issues. For me, that is not a fair way of running soccer in the country. We need to show our stakeholders that we have an interest in what's going on, not just during the election, but we have an interest right through the management of football.
Okay. Kent, it's a question again. I'm just reading the comments on the Facebook page. A question from one of the viewers is asking, there are allegations that you are pro the incumbent, that is President Nick Mwendo. Will you kindly clear the air on that? It's not, I'm not the one who's saying that. I'm just reading a comment from the Facebook page that there are allegations that you're already pro the incumbent. Could you kindly clarify on that?
It would be interesting to know, how do we show our being pro the incumbent?
Okay, so from your end, you are very impartial and you are pro nobody.
Completely. We have a process.
Yeah.
We have a process, and our job is to follow that process to the letter, and that's what we are doing.
Okay, Mutwiri, on your end, probably I'll give you a chance as a journalist to ask any questions you have to Madam Chair.
My question would be, some of these clubs that we have seen listed here, because the rule that governs the sporting organizations in this country are all enshrined in the Act of 2013, the Sports Act of 2013. First of all, we are looking at an organization that has not made itself or aligned itself to the provisions of the Sports Act of 2013. Some of these clubs are not even, some of these clubs that have been stated there, they are not even aligned themselves to the Sports Act of the 2013, and also the FKF statutes themselves, because we even had these things. Last year we saw some clubs trying to be chased out of the league because of financial rules and all that. And yet we know that these clubs have not aligned themselves to those things. So why are we very keen on continuing the process where there are so many loopholes, legal loopholes, and the teams and some of these people we expect to vote in, our football leaders, have not aligned themselves to the Act of 2013, they have not allowed themselves to the FKF constitution itself, or even the FIFA statutes themselves.
Mutwiri.
Yes.
I have waited for complaints like those. I didn't receive any. So you cannot condemn me for not.
I'm not condemning you. I'm just asking.
Hold on. You cannot condemn the process
I'm just asking.
When you did not, you did not do your part.
I did.
No, you haven't. You
and
have
I'm
not
doing
done
it
your
even
part.
now.
No, Mutwiri, we had a period within which complaints were supposed to be made. Did you send your complaint to say that we have this club and this club that has not aligned itself to the Sports Act? We have this. Did you send your complaint?
You said that this thing is a members only.
Yeah,
Mutwiri, did you send your complaint?
I did not send because you said FKF and the process is a members only.
I rest my case. Because
and what you're saying is, what you're asking here is, I'm asking as, you see, this is a members election, you said, and you said it's open to members.
Why are you asking any question at all?
Because I have to. It's my work as a gatekeeper.
No. You cannot have your cake.
My work is simply to what is called, I have two functions as a journalist. One is to inform, educate, and entertain. The second one is to shape public opinion. So what I'm asking you, I'm not asking you in terms of like I'm condemning you, or I'm just asking you so that by your response, the people who are watching this and my audience out there will make their own judgment. I am not yet to make a judgment on you.
By the way, the FKF Constitution does not ask me to check through the Sports Act.
Yes.
In order to see that this team complies with the Sports Act, this one does not. It doesn't. I have followed the FKF Electoral Code, 1. 2, the board published the register. Why was it published? So that it goes through public scrutiny. And anybody who had anything to raise, raised it, except Mutwiri. So Mutwiri, don't complain if you have a complaint.
I am not complaining at all.
No. It's not a fair, it's not fair.
I'm easy.
It's not fair because
that is the reason why elections in Kenya and football elections in Kenya always invoke a lot of emotions. And that is why that is why we have an issue. You see,
I disagree. The register.
If a simple question, can get the referee set off like that. If a simple question can get a referee to set off like that, what does it say about the entire process? Hold
on.
Yes.
Let us not confuse our viewers.
Okay.
Let us not confuse the people. I like to be honest and
yes,
I like to be straight. So Mutwiri, either you have a complaint,
yes,
which you raised within the time, or you don't. You can't have cake and eat it. And you can't decide that, oh, because I am a member, I'm not a member, I didn't raise the question and I'll raise it thereafter. That doesn't happen.
But the election has not been conducted yet. We are still very far away from October 17. Remember, this thing hasn't been done. It's not yet done.
Okay, Madam Chair, raise your point. Yeah,
we have a timetable for a reason. Next thing is tomorrow, we want to look at the list of delegates. So you start with the clubs, allow members to scrutinize it. If they have any issues about it, you resolve it. Then you go to the delegates, you resolve it. Then you nominate your aspirants. There is order to it. So it's not like we have the whole time, to disorganize ourselves. So that is the order. And that order has been looked at, and we've seen that is out. Now, I want to raise an issue. We did an election in March.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for your information, we received lots of responses from losers who said that this election, I have conceded, we lost fair and square, that the election was carried out appropriately. That we are on record for. Mutwiri, we are on record. Yes. So
that is a process, that is an election that was eventually nullified because there are some irregularities with it.
Hold on.
I've been told by FIFA to start from zero.
Hold on. The SDT never condemned the process. It was nullified because of Section 4. But the way the process was conducted was completely above board. And like I'm saying, the stakeholders who participated appreciated that process. and it's good to give credit where it is due.
Yes,
And
you guys did a fantastic job.
And we intend within the rules and regulations.
Yes,
we did a
but
good
then
job.
again,
And
whatever we did a good job on was flawed.
And that's the same thing.
It's simply like, you know, trying to, you wash the cow's feet and then you let them go back to the cow shed.
That's fine, because if the root, if once you've washed them, they're expected to go back to the cow shed, you let them go back to the cow shed. Because that is, we are following rules. We cannot create our own rules. So Mutwiri, you should be telling me that this electoral board has flouted rule X, Y, and Z. For example, when you mentioned the fact that all clubs should vote, they can't, because the rules are very clear.
I'm not saying they should. I don't say they should.
Yeah,
but some of the clubs that are in your register have not conformed to the Sports Act, which is the legal thing that governs voting organization.
I've told you that.
And some of them are not even. They don't even follow the FKF statutes. That you even the Bible you're holding to this election.
Bring them out.
Look, so what you're saying, for example,
send me a list.
Let me give you. I will tell you.
Send the board.
Let me give you an example. We can't go through all these clubs you've written here, but let me give you a good example.
Yes.
You said about Sony, right?
Sorry.
You said about Sony Sugar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sony Sugar FC, right? Let's take a particular example of Sony Sugar FC, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
By the time the FKF said that the season was over, they were not yet relegated, isn't it? But the same federation told us they are relegated, isn't it? After they cancelled the season because of COVID-19, they were expelled from the league for not meeting.
Mutwiri, let me ask you a question, Mutwiri. Let
me finish.
What do you think? What decision would you have taken about Sony?
Sony is very simple. First of all, there is a case in court challenging the ending of the season when it ended. That means the KPL as constituted currently cannot stand the full face of they cannot it cannot follow the law because
just answer a simple question.
Yes, I'm asking a simple question. So what I would do,
answer a simple question.
If I was in your shoes, I would say, okay, until you resolve this issue of which is a KPL team or not, I am not doing a process simply because I have 60 days to do it. That is what I would do if I was in, but I'm not. But
thank God you're not, because election is going on and Sony is voting.
There is this thing of Atibora Uchaguzi. We don't have Uchaguzi Bora, but not Bora Uchaguzi.
Kinyanjui, I'd like to say at one point.
Okay, Madam Chair, I also have a question.
I'd like to say one point, Kinyanjui.
Okay, raise your point, Madam.
I wish you had brought a stakeholder that has an opposing view to Mutwiri, because what it's looking like Mutwiri versus myself.
No.
And remember, hold on. And remember, the electoral board is actually a referee.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we're supposed to be impartial.
Yeah, sure.
With the same passion that Mutwiri is pushing the point of one side, there is also somebody else who is passionate, a stakeholder also, who feels the process is right, who feels the process should go on, who feels that this election is long overdue.
Yeah,
and so and by the way, as a journalist, he's informing, but he's supposed to have actually both sides.
Okay.
Not my side, but both sides of the coin. He should be talking. We have these stakeholders that say this, and we have these stakeholders that say this. And then he comes in the middle and says, let the public choose.
Yeah, I agree, Madam Chair. That's a fair point. But like I said, I also have a question on the same register. Like Mutwiri mentioned, we have Palos, a club that ideally has already wound up, but they are still among the teams that are voting. What's your take on that?
If it has wound up, it shouldn't be voting.
But it's in the register that you sent out.
Pass it on, and that's what I've said it. That's the reason we published the register. We wanted feedback, because the electoral board does not have its own data. So we rely on data that is given to us. And for people to keep quiet and then come and say, you see this and this, that is not being honest.
But Madam Macha, just to be honest with you, we all want the good of the game. That's why we are raising these points. We want to see you
bring them.
Like I hope you've taken note of that issue with the Palosa team that I think wound up almost 2 years ago.
Send a message. It can't be on this discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Send a clear message, and we will act upon it.
Yeah, I was just bringing it to your attention because, like I said again,
so long as there's official communication that is, because again, that could be hearsay.
Yeah,
it
sure.
Could be, yeah.
I have the register on my email, but just for the sake of moving on, we all want the good for the game. We want the electoral board to do a good job. We want you to do a good job. So we are not here to condemn you. We are here because we love the game. We want the best for Kenyan football. We want the electoral board to do a very good job. Then we are very eager to get back to the field. We are tired of playing football in the court. So we are actually not just Mutwiri and I. Every Kenyan wants this process to be very fair enough, and we can move on with the game. But for a short break, we have merchandise here from Mozambique. Things were getting heated. Probably you also want to take some water. We have merchandise from Mozambique for the viewers. I have a very good gift from them. I also have a jersey from them. So I'll ask the viewers a question on the Facebook live show, and they can answer. So to move on, Madam Chair, what are some of the challenges that you've faced in this whole process?
These are the challenges. Like I said, a key part of this election is the register. And the challenge around the register is the fact that we use data that comes from FKF. And this data comes from the various clubs, from the branches. And so that which determines whether this election is seen to be free and fair or not is one place where we put a lot of effort to ensure that we resolve if there are any disputes. Now, the question is, what happens? For example, you've just pointed out that you have this team that is up there that should not be there. Yeah. We look at it. And that is the greatest challenge, that while we are doing our level best to make sure that this election is free, fair, transparent, and that's why we communicate. Because if we were having any hidden agendas, we would not publish the register. We would just say the register is here and perhaps communicate to the various clubs and say, you come and vote. But we are publishing it and giving time after sharing the calendar so that people can come up and raise the issues that they want to raise about them. And that's the challenge, that we don't get issues raised when they should. That's number one. Number two, we are relying on the clubs to ensure that we clean up the register. Many times people are lying. And so you have to bring the two sets of people so that you can get this sorted out. And of course, during this COVID time, because you're also keeping social distancing, it becomes a bit of a challenge to ensure that you're getting everybody on board. And so what we are doing is that we are taking note of all these challenges, because at the end of our term, we are going to ensure that there are records to be used for posterity. And we are going to do a report that we want to give to NEC so that in their next AGM, they're able to look at some of those things and resolve them, so that we don't end up with this cycle of every time when elections come, we have issues. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough, Madam Chair. And at a personal level, what has all this taught you as a person?
As a person, my resolve to stand out as a person of integrity has actually been strengthened. I'm finding that over and over again, I have to show that I'm a person of integrity, and that I'm a person who can be relied upon to do what is expected of me. And so that is the greatest learning, that in the face of all that is going on, that you have to still stand and be counted. And so that's the biggest lesson for me.
In the past few years, women football in Kenya has come out strongly. But again, what's the position of women leaders in such a big board? You had the FKF electoral board. Many would expect a man to head the same. What's the role of women in leadership in the current environment?
There's no reason why women should not be in leadership. Absolutely none. However, because of the fact that most of the leadership positions are taken up by men, they tend to overlook the strength of women. And that's the other thing that keeps pushing me in this particular post, because I'd like everyone to see that really it's not just a man's job, that even women can be able to deliver and deliver appropriately. I must say that I have received excellent support from the other board members who all happen to be male, and they have confidence in my ability. We consult, we work together. We've worked so well, and I'm sure that at the end of this process, it will be seen that yes, even women should be able to be given opportunity to make some of these things happen.
That's an excellent parting shot. I'm not sure if you guys are aware that we've already done 1 hour. Things became so heated. I was not even aware that we've done 1 hour already, but we are almost winding up. So almost in the next 10 minutes, we'll be done. But Mutwiri, you are part of the, yes. You covered football when we had Super Sport around. You were part of the Sport Pesa team that, tried to rejuvenate Kenyan football. But when you see things, the way things are going on right now in Kenyan football, is there hope for the Kenyan game?
There's always hope for the Kenyan game. From even the time when we had these parallel leagues and all that, there's always hope. Okay. Because one thing, there is always the talent to play the game. There's always the goodwill. We have so many fans, millions and millions of fans. You just have to see when Harambee Stars play, or when teams like Hull City and Everton came to Kenya, that there is an interest in football. The only thing that messes this up is the fact that we tend to treat football as a social function as opposed as a business. Everywhere in the world, you've seen what has been happening across in Tanzania. You've been seeing what is happening in South Africa. You've seen what is happening in Europe. But even within our own setup, we need to realize that football is no longer a social function. It's no longer somewhere you go to weekend and then shout and then go back to home. And that is why we must, first of all, start from what we call a root and branch approach. I admire Madam Kentice for taking this job. So many women cannot even want to, no one, very many people, even corporate companies have run away from Kenyan football. We had SuperSport going out. We had Sport Pesa saying we are done. But the fact that she's taken this job, credit to her. And that is why we are saying, instead of presiding over a process that cannot stand the scrutiny of integrity, and she's saying she's also a person of integrity, it is time maybe she gave back all these things that have been brought to her and she's published, and tell them, can these things pass the scrutiny? For example, do clubs, do they have confirmation from the registrar of societies that they have conformed to the act? It's a simple check and balance, which doesn't require a lot of budget. Are the delegates that we are being brought here, are they people who with the proper track records? Because if we go ahead and do a process like this again, we shall end up having either the kind of dispute that brought us 3 bans in 2 years, in 4 years, between 2004 and 2008 up or 7, because we are out of football for 3 years. And a whole generation of players was lost. So anyone else, if the Madam Kentice is the referee, please make sure you're refereeing a fair game. Not one that the pitch is slanted like this.
Sure.
And so these are the kind of things we need to do to give hope to our football. Remember, the people who are running for office in this game already have made their own living. They have made their corn. But we have players, for example, who haven't kicked a ball since March.
Sure.
They have families. These people have their wives. These people have their fathers, their mothers, their sisters, their brothers. Think about those people. Whenever you're doing, it's not just about doing something so that we can get it over with. Think about those guys. Think about the other people who are looking forward to have a career in this game because perhaps they're not as good as well endowed academically as the others. They can't all be doctors, we can't all be lawyers, we can't all be journalists, we can't all be everything. And football offers a ticket where we can improve our lives. Look at all the people, all the other related service industries to this game. For example, when you are walking around with SuperSport, if you were to do a raid game in Kisumu, you'd have maybe 34 crew flying from JKIA. We had another one going with trucks. We had others like myself, field cameraman, field reporter, sorry, going. And so we would spend night in hotels, we'd buy things, you know, a whole economy. And even journalists like Jeff, they got maybe their first taste of television through SuperSport.
Yeah, sure.
That is gone. So whenever we are looking at this process, we are just not doing an election for the sake of doing an election, and then we put recommendations back to the people who are going to run this game. No, it's much more than a sport. It's much more than a game. That is why, for example, Jeff will continue working. He started working as a writing for online. He's still now doing his show. Without this football, this will not be here. So let us try to do the right thing and let history not judge us harshly, because the people who are there before, when we were having the disputes of two parallel leagues, when we were having FIFA bans, they have already left. Some of them have left Earth. History will judge them very harshly because, let's say the Harambee Stars, we had a disconnect from the late 90s until when we were able to fumble our way to the AFCON. We had 12 years gap between. These are some of the things that we should look at when we are doing these things. When we have an election, let us do it properly. When we want to do, when we want to constitute an NEC, let us do it properly. Yes, there is no process that is 100%. That much I can give you. But let us not do a process which can be challenged and overcome by just pointing out, highlighting like things like Jeff has highlighted about a club like Palos or a club like Sony Sugar, which we don't know whether it still exists or not. Let us not allow such things to come in here, because at the end of the day, we are killing the hope of a whole game. And even when our time comes, there's a time Kentice, Jeff, and Mutwiri will not be here. We have moved. What will people judge?
I'd like to interject.
Yes, sure.
Jeff, I want you and I want viewers to understand that I have run a club.
Yeah, I was actually coming to that.
Wazito Football Club started off as a club under the university. We brought it up.
Yeah.
And so I understand exactly what's going on in Kenyan football. I am the one person who has questioned several things. While I was on KPL as chairman of Wazito, I stood up for a number of things that are going on. And I want to say that I did not get the support that I'm trying to hear being talked about here. We have extremely few people in leadership who care about football. So I don't even want to hear about those sponsorships and so on. I know about them and I know what goes on about them. And so for me, it doesn't make sense for us to come and stop an election 4 years into the time, then another election 4 years into the time. When push comes to shove, when you're called upon to stand up for those players, these people are not there. They're not there. And that's why I'm saying football running in Kenya is not about the election. Football running in Kenya is about the managers, the day-to-day managers who are looking after the talent, who are questioning what's going on there, who are questioning where the sponsorship funds are going. That's where the rubber meets the road. It's not at the election point. At the election point, I'm sorry, it's too late. If we had 18 chairmen at KPL looking after players, looking after those fundings, looking after the sponsorship, then you come up and say that, oh, this election is good, I would hear you. But the truth is that we are not scrutinizing things day to day. And so for me, this whole issue around the election, it doesn't hold water.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
My question, Jeff, a very simple question. Why is she so determined to make sure that
I gave you time. I gave you time. I gave you time.
A very simple question.
Let Madam
help it on making this election
Hold
happen.
on, Mutwiri.
Just that.
Mutwiri,
yes.
I gave you time. Give me time.
Yes. No, Madam, make your point.
Because you are in the public space. And you can now not inject rules, for example, that the electoral board should be looking at whether teams are with the Sports Act and so on. Why should I do that? It's not.
It's called checks and balances. It's checks and balances.
Hold on. That's
checks and balances. Checks and balances. That's what you're lacking in this process. Checks and balances.
Mutwiri, if I didn't want to talk about the SDT, but even the SDT ruled on that. The issue of clubs and the management through the Sports Act. It was ruled upon. You cannot be talking about things that have been ruled upon if they were ruled upon in a manner that did not please you, that we should now go back to it. It's sub judice for me to start going back to say that this club does not fit within the Sports Act.
So how do you verify a club is actually a club? Just a question.
How do I verify? Through the FKF, through the FKF records. And that's
but you're supposed to be independent. That's why you're an independent electoral board. So if you, how can I verify a club through FKF? Where is the independence here?
Mutwiri, and that's why, but FKF is the one that holds your records. It has the data. It's the one that runs soccer in the country.
So basically, the electoral board is an appendage of FKF. That's what you're trying to tell us.
Hold on. We are carrying out an FKF election.
Yes, which means that the board is an
hold on.
There is no electoral board that is part of the election or the organization.
The independent electoral board.
The IEBC is not part of the executive. It's not part of the legislation. It's not part of the. It's not part of the election process. They just conduct an election.
Kinyanjui, I need your protection because I can't get my word through. I can't get my word through. We are carrying out an election for FKF. We cannot pretend to be doing something outside of FKF. That's number one. Number two, you either have confidence in the records of FKF as a member or you don't. Because if members are not taking care of their records within FKF, it doesn't matter what kind of election you take. It's an FKF election, you use FKF records. It's like saying IEBC is working from Uganda. You can't work from Uganda. You work from Kenya. You use the population of Kenya. You use the electoral register from Kenya. And that's why, again, IEBC publishes the register and asks people to look at it and see, is it correct or not? And that's what we did. It's an FKF election. Let's not forget that. So our mandate, it doesn't matter which electoral board you bring. The mandate is drawn from FKF statutes and the FKF code. We can't go beyond it. And that's why, as we are looking at this register, as we're putting it together, we are seeing things that we are going to send to the NEC and say, perhaps a better way of ensuring that this register is clean would be to do A, B, C, D. But as of now, the records we use, fortunately or unfortunately, are records from FKF, because remember, it's an FKF election. As simple as that.
Okay, fair enough, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask this question. You said you've been in charge of Wazito Football Club from inception, since the days of the humble beginnings at UON, before the club was actually sold off. Are you proud of the team that Wazito has become?
At the moment?
Yep.
I am.
What are some of Yep, shoot.
We actually sought to develop a professional outfit. And so
Okay.
right from the beginning, we set out professional standards. Even little things like the logo, which was patented, we went to the website, but most important, we had a development culture for the club. We had players going through personal development coaching on finances, on outlook. We were a family, a very, very good family, so that even when we didn't have money, they understood we didn't have money, and they knew that money was coming from our own pockets to run the game. And Kinyanjui, that's the reason I'm saying that we need more people in management of soccer. We got to KPL where we thought that we would get funded for our performance, that KPL would have some money from the sponsors and so on, and just to get there, and there was nothing. There was nothing. There was supposed to be sponsorship, but we didn't see it. And what we were getting, 240,000 shillings a month, was not enough for our 30-man bench. And actually it was equivalent to like 7,000 shillings a player per month. And very quickly, we went down the league because we were unable to hold the center. We didn't have the funding. And we pitched around this country. We pitched to corporates, we pitched to all sorts of people to give us sponsorship, and nobody would give us sponsorship. And the reasons, I do not want to go into them on this in the public, but I know what's going on in Kenyan soccer. And I questioned it. I want you to know, Mutwiri, I didn't sit back. I questioned. I did my part. And that's why when I was asked to be on the electoral board, I said, I'll do it because I want to make a difference in Kenyan soccer.
Fair enough,
and
madam.
the difference that I want to see is people who are capable running the sport, but unless they give of themselves, unless they get involved, if they are waiting for the election, then we know why they are coming for the election.
Fair enough, madam. Mutwiri, I want to give you this chance, to air your parting shot, because we are almost 1 hour, 30 minutes since we started. So I would like to end it with parting shots from both of you. So we start with Mutwiri.
Jeff, thank you, and Madam Kentice, thank you. It was quite an informative and engaging forum. My passing shot is simple. Let us think about the welfare of the game. I've had the experience from Wazito. She says she knows what is going on in Kenyan football. Each of us in this panel knows, maybe not the whole, but a part of what goes on in Kenyan football. But the reality on the ground is having a process or conducting a process that will be open to A, litigation, B, will be open to a lot of question, C, doubt, and D, the whole integrity will be questioned, is not the right thing to do for Kenyan football. Yes, the hearts may be in the right place, but for once, let us do something right. Let us make sure that, for example, we don't have ghost teams or ghost delegates or trying to rush over a process that looks that is heavily skewed towards a certain camp, and anyone who questions that is branded to be something else. I think we should mature and grow out of that. So, Madam Kentice and your team, all the best, but please do a process that will stand the test of time. That would be my parting shot. Or otherwise, it's never too late to just call it off and let's get everything together and then come back when we can all say that at least we've tried.
Okay, that's fair enough from you, Mutwiri. Madam Chair, this is your opportunity for your parting shot. And I'm hoping it's not a right of reply to Mutwiri, otherwise we'll do this again for 1 hour.
Yes, I wish it would be another one. But every coin has two sides. So that is Mutwiri's side, and he is completely entitled to his opinion. The other side of that coin has stakeholders who are extremely happy with the process and they would like that process to be completed. And so when you are on that balancing point as the electoral board, what do? We go by FIFA's direction to us. There's no way the electoral board is going to FIFA and say, sorry, sir, we are not carrying out elections as you have directed. And so we are going ahead with the election. We would like to make it as transparent as possible. I'd like to go on record with the fact that Mutwiri never sent any complaint about the register. He's choosing to do it now. And I find that interesting. But you still have a chance, Mutwiri, send your message as a board. We'll be happy to look at it. Tell us this one is a ghost club and so on and so forth. We are happy to look at it. But at the end of the day, my plea is for soccer lovers, football lovers, true football lovers. Don't keep things until the elections for you to come out. Be involved right through every single day. Those matches, as they're being posted back to FKF to say this is finished and so on, follow up, make sure that the right thing is the one that is being put up in the records. And yes, let's manage talent. Let's manage the game. Remember, it's about talent. It's about branding this country. It's an industry, a worldwide industry that we should actually be making sure is done properly for the benefit of this nation. Thank you.
Asante sana, Madam Chair. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you for accepting my invite to grace the show. You know, it was not easy. I had to go through very many people, you know, and it has also been very difficult to get people from that other side to accept an invite to, you know, to air their opinion. So I want to sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for accepting the invite. You know, as leaders, we should not be, you know, running away from the public. We are serving the public, so it's very crucial for us to face them and answer some of their concerns. And also want to thank Mutwiri, you know, taking time off your busy schedule to accept to come and, you know, put to task Madam Kentice. You know, as a leader, she should also accept the fact that she will always be under public scrutiny, and it's our work as journalists to do that and to inform the public and to get the opinions of you know, the decision makers. So again, guys, I'm really grateful for you accepting this invite, and I look forward to taking this discussion forward in future.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
And may you all have a nice evening.
Have a great week and good evening, madam. Please
come. Let's see the aspirants. We've opened the space. Come and be candidates so that we can run the sport properly.
Sure, madam. That's where we are all headed.
Yeah. Karibuni.
Asante sana. May you all have a fantastic week ahead.
Thank you.